This presentation is an introduction into the integumentary system and will focus on the epidermis. Remember that an organ system is two or more organs working together, and an organ is two or more tissues working together. In the integumentary system, the organs include the cutaneous membrane, the hypodermis, and accessory structures, such as the hair, nails, glands, and nerve endings. The integumentary system has many functions. These include protection, excretion, maintenance, production, synthesis, storage, and detection. These functions are provided by the different organs of the integumentary system. If we think of the skin as a whole, we can understand that we have protection of the underlying tissues and organs against abrasion, fluid loss, and chemicals. The nails also help against impact to the fingers, tips, and toes. While we usually think of excretion as a function of the digestive and urinary system, through sweat we do have the excretion of salt, water, and some organic waste products. The integumentary system also allows us to maintain a normal body temperature through keeping us insulated against the cold or allowing us to lose heat through evaporation. Different cells of the integumentary system produce a protein called keratin, which helps protect the skin, and other cells synthesize vitamin D, a steroid-based molecule that through a series of events will be converted to the hormone calcitriol, which helps maintain calcium balance. The hypodermis is a layer of adipose tissue deep to the dermis, and therefore it can store lipids. Detection is provided through the nerve endings that are located within both the dermis and epidermis. The epidermis is the outermost layer of the integumentary system and is what most of us commonly call the skin. It is made of stratified squamous epithelium, which means it is many layers of cells and the most superficial layers are flat. It is also keratinized because specific cells called keratinocytes produce the protein keratin and fill up these outer layers of cells. Based on the thickness of the epidermis, skin can be classified as either thin skin or thick skin. Thick skin is only found on the palms of the hand and soles of the feet, and thin skin covers the rest of the body surface. And as you think about that skin, most of the thin skin has hair. The epidermis is made up of several different layers. These layers are collectively called strata, and each individual layer is called a stratum. Starting from the basement membrane, or the deepest layer, we have the stratum basale, stratum spinosum, stratum granulosum, stratum lucidum, and stratum corneum. An acronym that can be used to remember all of these layers is Can Lucy Give Some Blood? But note that this acronym starts from the most superficial layer. Can Lucy give some blood? In the stratum basale, all the cells are attached to the basement membrane by the intracellular connections hemidesmosomes. Most of these cells are actively dividing to replace the superficial cells that are lost or shed. In areas like the fingertips, there are specialized Merkel cells that are involved in the sense of touch. These are connected directly to nerves. The cells of the stratum spinosum are mostly keratinocytes. These cells are also still dividing. This layer also contains a group of cells called dendritic cells, which are part of the immune system. They protect against microorganisms and superficial skin cancers. The next layer toward the surface is the stratum granulosum. In this layer, the keratinocytes have stopped dividing and are now making the proteins keratin and keratohyalin. These two proteins make the cell membranes of the keratinocytes thicker and less permeable, and the cells become thinner and flatter. The stratum lucidum is a clear layer found only in thick skin. This separates the stratum corneum from the deeper layers. And lastly, the most superficial layer is the stratum corneum. This contains 15 to 30 layers of keratinized cells, and because they are filled with keratin and keratohyalin, this makes the body water resistant. Where the epidermis meets the dermis, there are ridges and grooves. This is necessary to increase the surface area of these two tissues as they contact each other. The curved portion of the epidermis that is coming down to meet the dermis is called an epidermal ridge. The part of the dermis that comes up to meet the epidermis is called a dermal papilla. If both of these surfaces were flat, the epidermis and dermis would be able to slide across each other easily. So here is an epidermal ridge. It's part of the epidermis coming down to meet the dermis. So this is the epidermal ridge. This layer here is the dermis, and so the part of the dermis that comes up into this area is called the dermal papilla. The patterns of the epidermal ridges of the thick skin give rise to visible patterns such as fingerprints. Skin color is determined by two pigments found in the epidermis and underlying dermis. The first is melanin, which is a brown, yellow-brown, or black pigment produced by cells called melanocytes. The other pigment is keratin. Notice that it looks like the word carrot. Keratin gives an orangish hue to the skin. I have known people that drink carrot juice daily to have orange on the soles of their feet. Another molecule that will affect skin color is hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a protein found in red blood cells, and when there is oxygen bound to hemoglobin near the skin, it gives the skin a red or pink color. Now that we have introduced normal skin color, let's discuss some abnormal colors. The first is jaundice. This is a yellowing of the skin due to an excess of bilirubin in the blood. Bilirubin is a breakdown product of red blood cells. In infants, jaundice is relatively common, as the baby's liver is not able to keep up with recycling the red blood cells that are breaking down. In an adult, the usual cause of jaundice is some form of liver disease. It can also be caused by red blood cells breaking down faster than normal. Cyanosis, erythema, and pallor are all results of alterations in the blood. Cyanosis is a bluish tint to the skin where hemoglobin does not have oxygen bound to it. Erythema is redness of the skin due to an increase in blood flow. This could be as simple as blushing or when your cheeks flush during exercise. Remember that redness is also one of the cardinal signs of inflammation, and it is due to an increase in blood flow to an area of injury. Pallor, or being pale, is due to a lack of blood flow to an area. Albinism is the absence of melanin, either due to a lack of melanocytes or melanocytes that are not functioning properly, and therefore these people have very pale skin and white hair. Here I will briefly discuss two types of skin cancer. The first is basal cell carcinoma. As the name suggests, this is an abnormal overgrowth of cells in the stratum basale. Malignant melanoma is much more aggressive. Medical personnel usually use the acronym ABC and sometimes D, ABCD and sometimes E to determine whether an area of the skin might be malignant melanoma. The A is for asymmetry. If you draw a line down the middle of an area of skin, will it look the same on both sides? If the sides are asymmetrical, it is a symptom of melanoma. The B stands for borders. Are the borders of this area smooth, or are they irregular? Irregular borders are more likely to be malignant melanoma. C stands for color. A mole or a freckle is usually all one color. Malignant melanoma might have areas of black, blue, purple, and brown all within one pigmented area. D stands for diameter. The rule of thumb is that the area should be smaller than a pencil eraser. It can also indicate a change in diameter of this area. Some doctors use the E for elevation, and some do not. For example, a freckle is flat against the skin, but a mole is raised. An area of malignant melanoma is usually raised from the skin around it.